I'm your host, Joel Present. You're watching Wrestling with Politics, and today we're once again going to be discussing the man who might very well become the next mayor of New York City. Today, we're once again going to be talking about Zohran Mamdani. And unlike the last video where I was discussing the reasons why I support Zohran Mamdani and why I decided to vote for him in the primary this past June, unlike that video, today we're going to be discussing the reasons why I'm skeptical of Zohran Mamdani. And there's many reasons to be skeptical here. And the biggest reason is the fact that Zohran Mamdani is a Democrat. And the reason that I say that like it's a dirty word is because by this point it should be. I mean, we've seen the legacy of the Democratic Party over the past 4 years under the Joe Biden administration. They tried to peddle us along as if a demented man was truly capable of running the country. They kept that lie up for 4 years. And then we saw what happened with Kamala Harris this past November. That's why she lost the election, because we saw that the Democratic Party, it no longer stands for working class people. It stands for corporations. It stands for the wealthy. And so that goes to quite the contrary from what we see from Zohran Mamdani, because Zohran Mamdani, he's offering New Yorkers some common sense policy positions, things like making the buses free in New York, things like freezing the rent, things like universal childcare. These are things that the Democratic Party has forgotten about. And these are policies, not to mention, that poll in the majority. Every time you ask New Yorkers, or to be more broad, Americans in general, whether or not they support these policies, things like Medicare for all, things like free public college, Americans always, in the majority, Democrats to be more specific, in the majority always say that they want these policies. But the Democratic Party, they might promise these policies, but they never deliver. And so why should I expect Zohran Mamdani to be able to deliver if he's claiming to be a Democrat? We've seen how many failures come along with being a Democrat. We've seen how every single time that a Democratic politician has come along, whether it be Obama, whether it be Bernie Sanders, every single time they've sold Americans out, and they've sold us out to the highest bidder. And so that's why Kamala Harris lost, because Democrats and Americans in general were tired of being sold a bag of lies from the Democratic Party. We've been tired of getting told that this is going to happen, and then in reality, the worst possible outcome turns out to be the truth every single time. So when it comes to politicians like Zohran Mamdani, who should have tons of goodwill and should be able to go into that office and deliver on all of these things, there's no trust. There's absolutely zero trust in the equation here when it comes to Zohran Mamdani, because I don't believe that he's actually going to deliver. It hasn't been the track record of any politician, disregard the Democratic Party, it hasn't been the track record of anybody to actually deliver on the promises that they promise on the campaign trail. It always seems to be the case that these politicians always run on one thing, promising all these wonderful things, telling you that these amazing things are going to happen, whispering flowery messages in your ears. But when they actually get into office, every single time, the most conservative outcome is always what tends up being the case. It's like some people say, no matter who you vote for, you get John McCain, and people are tired of it. And so that's why, to be quite frank with you, I voted for Zohran Mamdani, but I genuinely don't really expect anything out of Zohran Mamdani, because I know that in order to extract the policy positions that I want from Zohran, I'm going to have to show up to his door and scare him and threaten him and hold his feet to the fire every single step of the way in order to make sure that he delivers on those promises. Because again, as people say, power concedes nothing without a demand. And once Zohran Mamdani gets a hold of that power, don't be surprised if he ends up like every single politician, like politicians who we had faith in before in the past, politicians like Bernie Sanders, again, politicians like AOC. These are people that people trusted. People put their faith into these politicians, and these politicians took a knife, twisted it, and stabbed it right in their back. And that's why we can't fall for the same bag of tricks. We can't be so naive every single time that a new politician comes around. Because like I said in the beginning of this video, the Democratic Party, they haven't had a very good track record recently. As a matter of fact, after this election this past November, after Kamala Harris lost, it looked like the Democratic Party was dying. And if you look around, who the hell was supposed to be the new generation to come in and replace anything? Was it supposed to be Chuck Schumer? Was it supposed to be Nancy Pelosi? No, it was never going to be those people. Those people are old. Those people are dying. The Democratic Party, they needed a new lifeblood. They needed a new leader. And who's that new leader going to be? It looks like that new leader is going to be Zohran Mamdani. And so it seems like the Democratic Party, they found their new Trojan horse. They found their new face for whatever it is that they're trying to push, for whatever agenda the Democratic Party is trying to get across in the future. Zohran Mamdani is clearly going to be the vehicle for that agenda. And it seems like the higher-ups in the Democratic Party, people like Obama, people like Hakeem Jeffries, they've decided to come along and accept that. And instead of fighting Zohran Mamdani, as it seems like before he beat Andrew Cuomo in the June primary, it seems like that's what they were doing. Instead of fighting Mamdani, it seems like the Democratic establishment has decided to accept Zohran Mamdani, and that's a very, very dangerous thing. Because like I alluded to in the previous video, Zohran Mamdani, it really depends here. Who is this guy listening to? Is this guy listening to the Bernie Sanders and the AOCs, and more specifically the Obamas of the world? Is this who Zohran Mamdani is getting his advice from? Is taking his political cues from? If that's the case, then don't be surprised when Zohran Mamdani doesn't deliver on any of the promises that he's making on the campaign trail. How familiar would it be to see a politician promise all these things while he's running, but when he gets into office, he abandons all of that? Actually, that playbook was began by Obama himself. So what if Zohran Mamdani is just the next Obama? And another theory going on online is the fact that Zohran Mamdani claims to be a democratic socialist, and he claims to be the vehicle for this view of politics, right? Well, what would it say if the first democratic socialist was to be a massive failure? What would that say about democratic socialism? It would paint a horrible picture of what that looks like. What if Zohran Mamdani is an obvious plant being planted in position to make democratic socialism look bad? There's so many different angles that could be at play here. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I see Zohran Mamdani chumming it up and laughing with people who we know are snakes, we've made videos about them being snakes, people like Elizabeth Warren, Democrats, who have completely sold out the country time and time again. And we already know how Elizabeth Warren was a snake in the Bernie Sanders campaign. She purposely stayed in the race until Bernie Sanders lost to Joe Biden. She stayed in the race to take votes away from Bernie Sanders, and she played a crucial role in the 2020 primary presidential election, if you guys remember that. So Elizabeth Warren, she's always been a snake in the grass. And here's Zohran Mamdani making chummy videos, laughing along with Elizabeth Warren. And I would like to hope that perhaps the opposite is the case. Maybe Elizabeth Warren, she's finally waking up. And perhaps now that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all these corrupt people are out of the way, Elizabeth Warren is finally coming out and endorsing Zohran and saying, okay, these people are gone. Now I could finally say what I actually believe. And that's Zohran. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's the other way around. I think the case is that Elizabeth Warren feels that it's safe, and not just Elizabeth Warren, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Obama, the whole list, they feel it's okay to come out and endorse Zohran Mamdani because they know that Zohran Mamdani is a safe pick, and that at the end of the day, he's not going to do anything too transformative. He's not going to go against and challenge the establishment in any significant way. Once they tell Zohran Mamdani enough is enough, he's going to take that cue and he's not going to deliver for the people. The farthest that Zohran Mamdani is willing to go is as far as Obama and Democratic leadership tells him to go. That's my fear. Is that the case? Well, we're going to have to see when Zohran Mamdani becomes the mayor. And my final point here is this, and I have to mention this in the video. It's also the fact that Zohran Mamdani in the past, he hasn't made any of these statements recently, and he hasn't made this the center of his campaign, and he shouldn't. But in the past, Zohran Mamdani has made some concerning statements when it comes to hate speech and going after people for disinformation and just Democratic propaganda and crap like that, that hopefully he doesn't bring this back into the limelight and hopefully he completely abandons talking like this, because again, going after people for hate speech, who's supposed to decide what is and isn't hate speech? Is Mamdani going to get into office and start prosecuting people for saying things that he doesn't like? That would be completely against the First Amendment. And again, that's one of my key concerns with his campaign. You can't violate the First Amendment of the Constitution. And it is a Democratic Party operation to want to go after people for disinformation. We saw that happen under the Joe Biden administration. People were removed from social media just for saying things that went against the government narrative. And you can argue that some of that is still going on right now. So if Zohran Mamdani is one of these politicians who's going to go along with the Democratic Party propaganda when it comes to hate speech, and I would like to personally meet up with Zohran Mamdani, find this guy wherever he is in New York, and confront him over this. What the hell were you talking about? He didn't say this recently, but what the hell were you talking about when you did say it? Because if you're going to go after New Yorkers for hate speech, you're going to have a big, big problem with me, because you're not some corporate overlord and you don't get to tell people what to say. You don't get to violate the First Amendment of the Constitution. People have a right to say whatever it is that they want to say. That should be one of the fundamental rights, and it is. It's in our Constitution. And if Zohran Mamdani has a problem with that, then I have a problem with him. But for now, that's my list of reservations with Zohran Mamdani. I hope you guys can see where I'm coming from. And I still decided to vote for the guy because of the fact that he decided to go against the Zionist lobby. I still decided to vote for the guy because he's way better than Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams. And at least with Zohran Mamdani, we do have a shot as seeing something different. He says he's going to be a democratic socialist. Not quite sure what that means, but at least it's something different than the Democratic establishment, than the corporate overlords that are Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo, that will provide us the same crap that we've been seeing for the past 40 years, ever since the cabal has taken over. So the question remains with Zohran Mamdani, is he something different or is he part of that cabal? I'm at least willing to give him a shot and see if he is going to be something different. But if he's not, I'm going to be here the moment that he doesn't, and I'm going to be here calling him out. And I hope that you guys will be here calling him out with me. So thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Make sure to go check out the other content on the channel. We just posted a video talking about the Israeli predator, the Israeli government official, Tom Artyom Alexandrovich, who was allowed to get away and flee back to Israel after being charged with acts of luring a minor. Completely despicable. Make sure you check out that video. But for now, that's all I've got for you. And thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.